And definitely some of the events that are happening in the Middle East are worth noting and worth talking about. It will be a disservice for me to see what's happening in the world, and for us, or for me, not to speak on it this morning. To talk about what is happening with our brothers and sisters in Israel. So today, church, I want to talk to you about that. The word anti-Semitism, the word describes people that are against the Jewish people. Semitism means coming from a Semitic language, which is anti-Semitism, but it also comes from the descendants of Sem, or Shem, in Hebrew, which is where the word anti-Semitite comes from. Shem in Hebrew was one of the sons of Noah. It's from that line that Jesus came from, the Jewish people came from. This phrase was first used in 1879 by a German man named William Marr. He's a German man, and he founded the group, the League of Anti-Semitites, or people who are anti-Semitic. He founded this organization. But this sentiment of anti-Semitism did not begin in 1879, and it did not begin in October 7th. This feeling, or this feeling towards the Jewish people began way before that. And it was based on the disobedience of a man of God. And this is where it began. If we go to Genesis chapter 12, verse 1 to 3, I want to take you through this. I want to show you where this comes from, and hopefully I can draw a conclusion. I don't have much time, which is the reason they gave me the time so much earlier today. I don't usually go for a while, and I'm going to try not to, but I am going to go longer than I usually do. I hope you get something from this. Now it says, Now the Lord said to Abram, go from the country of your kindred and your father's house to the land that I will show you to. And I will make you, Abram, a great nation. And I will bless you and make your name great, Abram, so that you, Abram, and your descendants will be a blessing to the world. I will bless those who bless you, and him who dishonors you, I will curse he who dishonors you. And all the families on the earth will be blessed because of you, Abram. This is the promise of the line of Abraham. This is the line of the Jews, the Jewish people, God's people. People that by God's word, they would be a blessing to the earth. Genesis chapter 15, verse 18 to 19. We're going to do some reading today. On that day, the Lord made a covenant with Abram, saying, to your offspring, I will give this land, from the river of Egypt to the great river of the river Euphrates, the land of the Kenites, the Kenizzites, and the Cadmonites. What did I give you? All the way to 19? Okay. In verse 21 or 20, I didn't give to Jerson. It also gives God says to Abraham, I'm going to give you the land of the Amorites and the Canaanites, which is also important, and we're going to address that one a little later. Now, like all things, this promise that was made to Abram, this promise that was given to him, we as humans, we become impatient. Sometimes God takes too long. Sometimes God doesn't know what he's doing, so he needs a little bit of help. And like all things that are godly and pure and holy, when you involve a human, things fall apart. Genesis chapter 16, verse 1 through 4. It's a story you guys know. It says, now Sarai, Abraham's wife, had borne him no children. She was around 75, 80 years old. She had a female Egyptian servant whose name was Hagar. Verse 2. And Sarai said to Abraham, behold, now the Lord has prevented me from bearing children. Go into my servant, and it may be that I shall obtain children by her. And Abraham listened to the voice of Sarai. 3. So after Abraham had lived 10 years in the land of Canaan, Sarai, Abraham's wife, took Hagar the Egyptian, her servant, and gave her to Abraham, her husband, as a wife. And he went into Hagar, and she conceived And when she saw that she had conceived, she looked with contempt on her mistress. You see, God said, Abraham, I'm going to give you a descendant. God never talked to Sarah. God never had a conversation with Sarai, ever. The conversation, the promises, and the deal and the honor was made with Abram. And for some reason, Sarai said, you know what? I'm really old. I'm so old that I don't think God's going to give us what God is trying to say is that I'm going to give you my Egyptian woman, my slave, and because of her, because I own her child. So technically, it's my child. So why don't you have a child with her, and that way, that's the descendants that you're going to have. And Abram said, all right. There was no fighting from him. But the conversation had nothing to do with Sarai. She was a means to an end. I'm sorry I put it that way. That's what she was. She had no voice in this because it was God's promise to Abram. And Abram went into Hagar, and she became pregnant. And when she became pregnant, all of a sudden, she thought that she was his wife, that she was his main squeeze, that she was the one that he was going to love. Genesis 16, 9 to 12. Let's see what happens. And the angel of the Lord said to her, return to your mistress and submit to her. You see, Hagar thought she was going to take the place of Sarai. So Sarai says to Abraham, listen, you need to get rid of her. She's got to go. She thinks she's better than me. She thinks she's your wife. So Hagar gets kicked out, pregnant and everything. She gets exiled, and she leaves. And then as she's leaving, as she's escaping, Genesis 19 says, the angel of the Lord said to her, return to your mistress and submit to her. Know your place in this home. 10. And the angel of the Lord said to her, I will surely multiply your offspring. Listen, this is a blessing to her. This is a blessing to Hagar. I will surely multiply your offspring so that they cannot be numbered for multitude. Who else was given this same type of promise? Who else? Abraham was given the same promise. Your descendants will be like the sand of the sea, the stars in the sky. And now God, the angel of the Lord, which is essentially Jesus, talks to her and he says, listen, I'm going to bless your descendants too. They're going to be many. They're going to be all over the world. And the angel said to the Lord, said to her, behold, you are pregnant, and you shall bear a son, and you shall call his name Ishmael. Because the Lord has listened to your affliction. 12. And he shall be a wild donkey of a man. His hand is against whom, church? Against whom?